Let's face it, those of us playing XCOM have a problem. We can't stop talking about it, or thinking about it, or posting about it on the national networks. And one of the things we're talking about a lot is what will turn a profit. I have pored over a sea of figures gleaned from files on the different networks. After studying them carefully, I concluded that none of them could be taken as gospel. In fact, all of these lists are wrong in one fashion or another. Many have errors of omission which combine to hide the kernel of truth within. When you add in the salaries, sign-up bonuses, workshops, and living quarters, hiring and keeping an engineer is an expensive proposition, so we'd better know what we're about. Talk on the boards has drifted back and forth, never really settling on the best item to make. The first general consensus was that laser pistols were the most wonderful thing since sliced bread and would solve all our financial woes. Next, someone mentioned laser rifles, then heavy lasers, and after that it got a bit chaotic. Some of those in front were shouting about medikits, and in the center aisles a scuffle broke out between the motion scanner faction and the Mind Probe Conservancy. Then a chorus arose from the back chanting, "Heavy plasma! Heavy plasma!" It was looking pretty grim since the plasmoids had actually brought their item of choice and were intent on settling the dispute by gunfire. When some bright soul pointed out that they hadn't put in a new clip since their last crash site investigation, they sheepishly sat down, mumbling, "Well, any old plasma then." This brief moment of silence was broken when, with a thunderous crash, the back wall opened to reveal a man standing on a vehicle. "Laser tank," was all he said. We all dutifully agreed. He did have the biggest gun after all, and began producing laser tanks. This phase lasted until Lass strafed the auditorium with laser cannons, which were mounted on her interceptor. Those wearing personal armor, power suits, and flying suits went their own way, while the rest of us took on the new Victor standard as our own. One forlorn person who had fallen from the balcony lay draped over the seats as we left, repeating over and over, "It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. They all lose money." I then decided to start from scratch and go to the source. I stopped all production at 2 of my bases and had an engineer build one of each item in XCOM. There was grumbling at first, but when I reminded them who pays their salaries, they raced off to their workshops and went to it. From the information they provided, I composed this spreadsheet. Stop screaming, you'll wake the children. Starting with the basics, what things cost, how much Illyrium and alien alloys they use, etc., I then moved on to the more interesting question, what brings in the big bucks? To turn these dry figures into something more immediately accessible, voila, the gross profit chart. 3 of the first 5 indices weren't even mentioned in those voluminous posts. Leading the pack is the hover tank launcher at $143,000, followed by hover tank plasma, which makes a good showing at $130,000. Then UFO power source at $120,000, tank laser cannon reading at $94,000, and finally flying suits at $57,000. The fog starts to clear when we get to the net profit chart. Our 3 front runners are in the same order, but hover tank launcher at $51,916 is losing ground to hover tank plasma at $51,902. UFO power supply remains in third with $39,766. A dark horse coming up on the outside is fusion ball launcher at $22,284. Tank laser cannon is trailing, showing $21,736. Sadly, flying suit has dropped to the rear, running in the red. Any item not in the red on this chart will make some money, but how much? They're entering the first turn now, and the leaders have changed. UFO power source is well ahead, with 30.59%. If you have plenty of everything except money, this is the place to put what's left. The rest of the leaders are bunched up, but there's some new blood. We have Psyamp at 9.23%, Fusion Ball Launcher at 9.21%, Laser Cannon with 9.05%, and Small Launcher showing 8.98%. Going into the second turn, we have another change in the lead. Fusion Ball Launcher at $40,111 and Laser Cannon at $39,511 are running neck and neck, showing how quickly they can turn a profit, closely followed by Hover Tank Plasma posting a strong $31,149, Plasma Beam with $27,986, and Hover Tank Launcher at $26,692. What this chart and the remaining 3 reveal is the importance of throughput. Not only do you have to make money on each item you build, but you also have to make a lot of them in a hurry to succeed. Fusion Ball Launcher showing 796 and Laser Cannon with 784 are setting a pace that the rest of the pack will be hard put to keep up with. Psyamp is making a comeback at 591, while Plasma Beam has fallen back slightly at 431. Motion Scanner has won a hard-fought 5th place with 258. We only have so much space in these bases, so it's important to get the maximum yield from our manufacturing real estate. They're coming down the home stretch, and the winner is Fusion Ball Launcher by a nose over Laser Cannon. The payoff line is Fusion Ball Launcher 5571, Laser Cannon 5488, Hover Tank Plasma 4326, Plasma Beam 3887, Hover Tank Launcher 3707. In examining this, you should note that none of the costs of using alien alloys to produce other things, such as flying suits, was taken into account. It would only make matters worse for those items requiring it, and once you can take on a supply ship or battleship, you have more alien alloys than you know what to do with anyway. Do yourself a favor, and sell the stuff if it's causing your stores to bulge. Considering all the overhead, I think the last 3 charts point the way. I became financially independent once I started building laser cannons, and I hope to do even better now that I know about fusion ball launchers. The items I tried out before, even tank laser cannons, didn't provide a big enough return to keep my head above water and take time out to build things I needed. When next we meet, we'll discuss base layouts, and if we have time, have fun with blaster bombs.